Hello, everyone, to Smart City Blueprint 2.0, the next opportunity for Korean companies in the Greater Bay Area webinar jointly held by Kotra Hong Kong and Invest Hong Kong. Our webinar is going to cover the practical strategies for the Korean companies to expand their business in regards of Hong Kong Smart City Blueprint 2.0, and find out why Hong Kong plays a key role in your expansion plan. 안녕하세요. 홍콩 스마트 시티 블루프린트 2.0 웨비나에 참석해 주신 기업인 여러분 반갑습니다. 저는 코트라
Thank
홍콩
you for participants. My name is Kim So-yeon. I am in the Hong Kong division of KOTRA, and we will be sharing with you today the Smart City Blueprint 2.0 in today's webinar. The Hong Kong government focuses on smart living, smart mobility, smart environment, smart people, smart government, and smart economy, and is pursuing 130 initiatives. Today, we would like to focus on information that will be helpful for business leaders. We would like to share Hong Kong's commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050 and the development of smart city technologies, and also use cases of smart city fund from the Hong Kong government. We will have a series of presentations, and afterwards we'll be entertaining questions. So please answer questions or ask questions in the chat window,
if you have any. So without further ado, please invite Jimmy, Associate Director General of Investment Promotion from Invest Hong Kong, to welcome you to the session. Thank you. Please, Jimmy.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. 안녕하세요. On behalf of Invest Hong Kong, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar that we are co-organizing with KOTRA on Smart City Blueprint 2.0, the next opportunity for Korean companies in the Greater Bay Area. Once again, a big thank you to our strategic partner, KOTRA, as well as our guest speakers from NAMI and GENS Technology. For those of you who don't know Invest Hong Kong, we are the government department dedicated to supporting foreign companies in setting up and expanding their businesses in Hong Kong, providing one-stop and free of charge investment support services. It is indeed my great pleasure to speak to the Korean business community today, because Korea is becoming an increasingly important source of foreign direct investment for Hong Kong, especially given Korea's very strong competitive edge in innovation and technology. And I truly believe that there is something valuable that Hong Kong can offer you. First of all, let me give you a quick update about the latest economic situation in Hong Kong. Since COVID-19 hit Hong Kong in early 2020, our government has set aside some $40 billion US, that's like 10% of our GDP, in order to support our economy. Various relief measures have been introduced, which have helped to avoid our economy from getting too bad. Still, our GDP shrank by 6% last year. However, we are cautiously optimistic that the worst time for Hong Kong is gone, and hopefully we will see some significant rebound in the second half of this year. Meanwhile, social stability has been largely restored, and this is extremely important for Hong Kong to remain prosperous in the future. Despite the challenges that we are facing, we have a lot of confidence in our future prospects. The development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, GBA, with a consumer market of 72 million people, will bring about tremendous business opportunities for companies operating in Hong Kong and the region. And in particular, Hong Kong will play a major role in developing INT and financial services in order to support the rapid development of the GBA. And Hong Kong is arguably the best gateway for Korean companies to access the GBA. It's really a no-brainer. I say that because our fundamentals remain very strong. Hong Kong is still one of the freest economies in the world. We always embrace a low and simple tax system, and in fact, have become even more aggressive in offering tax incentives to attract companies coming from certain strategic sectors, especially INT. And our rule of law, judicial independence, and IP protection have not changed and will not change. And our status as an international financial center is a big plus, especially for fundraising. Last but not least, our government is highly committed to developing INT as an important economic driver for Hong Kong. Our Smart City Blueprint 2.0 is just one of the many examples. Meanwhile, I'm also very excited to know that the Korean government has recently announced plans to support Korean companies to participate in smart city projects overseas. So all these factors are making Hong Kong an ideal location for Korean companies to engage in R&D, to raise capital, or develop new market. I'm sure that our guest speakers today will explain these concepts to you in much greater detail later on. Just to conclude, Hong Kong's fundamentals remain very strong, and we are faced with some very exciting opportunities like nowhere else in the world. And I'm confident that once the pandemic is over, our economy will recover very quickly. And Invest Hong Kong is always here to support you in capitalizing these new opportunities in and through our city. If there's anything we can support you, please don't hesitate to contact us, especially my colleagues, Andy in Hong Kong and Young Ho in Seoul. Now, would Young Ho like to say hello and a few words to the audience?
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 홍콩 투자청 한국사무소의 세용호 대표입니다. 오늘 웨비나에
Hello
참석해
everyone, I am Young Ho. Thank you everyone for participating in today's webinar. If there is anything that I can help you, please contact me anytime.
Thank you, Young Ho. Once again, I would like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. I wish you all a very fruitful discussion. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Jimmy, for the kind remarks. 다음은 홍콩 투자청의 앤디 웡님께서 홍콩
Next, Mr. Andy Wong from Invest Hong Kong will make his presentation about the opportunities in the GBA region.
on relevant policies and business opportunities in the Greater Bay Area. Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Wong. I'm from Invest Hong Kong. I'm leading the innovation and technology sector within Invest Hong Kong. I think Jimmy has already mentioned about the role for Invest Hong Kong. So for the next 20 minutes, given that I have quite a lot of material, so I think I will quickly go through those of the materials so that we can cover most of the information I want to deliver. So about Invest Hong Kong, so we are the agency to help overseas company to set up the business in Hong Kong. And then we provide all the information required, helping them to apply the visa, setting up the company, and then introduce a different business network to those companies who want to set up in Hong Kong. And then we have different teams, and I'm looking after the innovation and technology teams. As Jimmy mentioned, we have a different office all over the world. Of course, we have our office in Seoul. And then apart from Seoul, we have all over in Europe, North America, South America, Asia. And then we work with different partners, trying to collaborate with each other to bring the synergy for those companies who want to set up in Hong Kong. As a quick snapshot about the business environment in Hong Kong. So we do have a good, very advantage of doing the business in Hong Kong, covering the geographical location of Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, so if you fly 4 or 5 hours, you can reach out half of the population worldwide. And then we have a very simple and no tax system in Hong Kong, including we have no GST, no VAT, for example. Capital fundraising through the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, very strong IP protection available in Hong Kong. GBA, I will touch on a bit more later on of my presentation. And then we have a very vibrant kind of a VC startup environment in Hong Kong. Now, one of the festival organized by Invest Hong Kong is called Start Me Up Festival, which attract a lot of startup company who leveraging Hong Kong as a platform to develop their business. To mention about the innovation and technology, what I cover in my team is cover in here is 5 major pillar, what we call. The first one, the major one, is a biomedical. So there's a couple of advantage of having the biomedical in Hong Kong, including the government sponsorship called Health at Inno Hong Kong, which is linking all those universities in Hong Kong and also global worldwide, so that to do the basic research. And also we have very good Hong Kong clinical system, medical system, and then we are clinical hub, has been a long time in Hong Kong, stand out very unique competitive advantage in Asia. And also we have a stock exchange for listing the biotech company. We have a very flexible listing rules called Chapter 18A. So if for those companies who want to list in the biomedical, because biomedical require long development cycle, so the Chapter 18A is a flexible mechanism for the company who, before they can earn the profit, but after they qualify for the FDA phase 1, is eligible to be listed on the stock exchange. And then the next pillar is about the robotics and the semiconductor, particularly in Hong Kong. As you all know, the construction or the property development is very booming in Hong Kong. So right now, we are targeting the robot, particularly for Hong Kong, in the construction industry, for the logistic industry, as well as for the medical, using the robot in the medical operation as well. The third one is about smart city, which is, I will have a more information about smart city later on. But anyway, so we cover 6 major pillars for the, including smart mobility, smart living, smart environment, smart government, smart people, and also smart economy. And the other part is about the telecom. So as you all know, 5G is available in Hong Kong as well as in China. And then it's enabled together with the Internet of Things. So it enables a lot of application and is a key enabler to support the smart city development. And then the next one is about big data and AI development as well. So in terms of the smart city development, right? So first of all, we look at what are the major mega trend driving the smart city development in Hong Kong. So what we call the first 2 boxes is called aging building and also aging population. So both are what we call double aging. So people getting old, building is getting old. So we need the smart city technologies to resolve these 2 issues. So there's an opportunity around these 2 areas, and rapid urbanization, also a major one, climate change, and also technology breakthrough, and also the economic shift that are the key driver for the smart city development as well. So in terms of the smart city blueprint 2.0, so we have the smart blueprint 1.0 is about launch in 2017. After that, then we now launched the 2.0, and it covers 6 major pillars. So the first one to be very excited, I just got the echo. So the smart city, which cover the electrical vehicle and autonomous vehicle, is being tested in Hong Kong. The intelligent transport system, and one of the very key initial part is a smart airport. As you all know, Hong Kong, because of the location of Hong Kong, so the airport in Hong Kong is a world-class leading international aviation hub in Hong Kong. And there's a lot of technology has been deployed in the airport of Hong Kong airport. So that is one, we are using this technology for our airport operation, and as well as is an example of other airports using this kind of technology in different airports as well in the world. And the green transportation, we are looking at the EV electric ferry as well, electric light bus we are developing in this area. Smart living, because of the COVID, we developed different apps so that we can monitor where they are when they visit the restaurant or whatever. And then I am smart kind of application. And one related to the biomedical is about the health medical record as well. So we have about 20, 30 years of patient data, so that can be leveraged for developing the health care system. And the environmental, definitely, we are looking for the carbon net zero by 2050. Smart government, we are opening the data, smart city kind of application, riding on the 5G enable, and the smart people and smart economy as well. So last year, our chief executive already announced that we are committed to carbon net zero by 2050. The key area that we look at will be the building area. How can we make use of the energy saving, the green transportation, and the waste to energy kind of facility development, and the low carbon lifestyle, and also the green funding as well. So to specific for the green tech opportunity, the major one is a decarbonization by means of using renewable energy, can be solar, can be wind, or can be tidal wave, and also the hydrogen economy we're looking at, and also the energy efficiency as well. And then the other one is a green transportation. The EV charging is one of the areas that we're looking at how to develop. The waste management as well, and the air and the water pollution as well. So if we look at the innovation and technology, we look at what are the building blocks to enable the development in Hong Kong. So we can have a 6 building block. One is about the R&D facility. So meaning that what are the research institutions available in Hong Kong? I will cover it later. And then the business environment I mentioned earlier about the low tax, the IP system, and also the IPO fundraising platform available in the stock exchange, and the top-notch kind of university available in Hong Kong, the facility funding and the incentive are available by different organizations, and the commercialization platform available, and then the GBA. For the kind of the research institute, we have 2 science park. One is Hong Kong Science Technology Park, the other is Cyberport. And then underneath that, we also have other research institute which doing more applied research. Today, we have the privilege to have invited Dr. Tracy from LAMI to talk about the kind of development from the LAMI side, which is more focused on the new material development. And for those universities in Hong Kong, 6 of them are already ranked number 100 globally in terms of the ranking. So they have different transfer office available to license their IP technology, as well as doing collaborative projects. In addition to that, the government have different platform or portal available, helping the company to commercialize their product, have a chance to show their technology, how can they apply to the market. And also from the government side, we do have the whole innovation procurement policy, meaning that when the government recruit the project or accept a tender, they not just purely look at the cost, but also look at the technology element available from that project. So in terms of the funding and incentive, we have a quite comprehensive kind of funding available in Hong Kong. So covering from the startup side, from the R&D research area, from the adoption. So the startup will be focusing more done by the science park, and they have a different kind of incubation program available, and also some venture fund available by the science park as well. And then from the R&D, it could be one-to-one matching fund, or it can be the R&D tax deduction related to that. So for example, for the R&D deduction, if you're corporate who is earning 2 million Hong Kong dollar as a profit, then the tax deduction can be maximum by 6 million, which is 3 times of 2 million. And then afterward of the 2 million profit, then will be 2 times of what is the earning. So there's no upper limit for those tax deduction. And also some cash rebate for the R&D expenditure, and some salary subsidized for hiring the postdoctor or master degree kind of people who work on the project. So that will be different kind of incentive available. So from the GBA, so GBA is a very interesting terms, and then what it is, right? So for those who may not familiar, will be 9+2 city concept. 2 means Macau and Hong Kong, but 9 meaning is mainland Chinese, those city in mainland China, which is including Shenzhen, for example, Guangzhou, and also Zhuhai, for example. And then the overall concept is that how can we leverage each city's synergy So for example, Hong Kong is very good at the financial platform, and the manufacturing can be very good in the Shenzhen, and they have a much bigger land available compared to Hong Kong. So the whole idea is to leverage each other's strength to make it much bigger. So and then the strategic intent covering 4 major areas. One is about innovation. So innovation, Hong Kong and Shenzhen could become positioned as a leading innovation and technology hub. And then the other is increasing the international competitiveness. So that will be leveraging Hong Kong, the financial and trade facility, the treaty with different cities as well. And also the commercial side, the manufacturing powerhouse in China, and the livability, which means for Hong Kong people who may have issue living in Hong Kong, but now for people who are reaching a bit more older age can move to China to live over there with a better quality. As a comparison for Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area, right? So we can compare to other bays available in the world, including the San Francisco Bay Area, New York Metropolitan Area, and Tokyo Bay Area. And each Bay Area definitely have their own strength, right? Say, for example, San Francisco is good on technology, New York is good on the financial hub, and Tokyo Bay is good on the industry. But for the Greater Bay Area, it seems to be a combination of all to one, including the financial center, innovation hub, and also manufacturing. So that seems to be a more stand out to be more comprehensive, more attractive in the Asia. If you look at the combination of the Greater Bay Area together with Hong Kong, so Greater Bay Area, you can consider they are forming different cluster, the industrial cluster, because you need those companies getting together to form a cluster. So including that's why they can produce a prototype in much shorter time. You can find the material to do the prototypes, and then in a much quicker in terms of time frame. So what benefit for the Greater Bay Area is all the arrows on the top, including the policy, driving the policy, the technology coming over China to the Greater Bay Area, the capital flows in, the worker from all over China to move to Greater Bay Area to work over there, and then the material and also the machinery. So all coming from all over China to go to the Greater Bay Area. Plus Hong Kong, because as I mentioned, Hong Kong is an international financial center. The kind of basic research from the university, the common law system, and also the simple low tax professional service, because you also need to have the professional like accountant, lawyer who is available so that you can reach out to them to form the business. And then the IP protection, and then the logistic hub and the free flow of capital is important. Adding up all those together, so the mainland Chinese city plus Hong Kong, and then to target what we call in China for China, and also for the Asian market, which is including the WeChat, which is recently formed last year. To enable the GBA, we need the infrastructure. What I mean by infrastructure is the transportation availability within the GBA area, including the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau bridge, which is you can through the land by car from Hong Kong to Zhuhai, and from the Zhuhai to Zhongshan or other place in Greater Bay Area, or maybe through the high-speed railway to China as well. And from the government perspective, they also have different incentive to drive the innovation and technologies. So first of all, they have different, that will be a different phase of facilitation measure, trying to give more policy available to those people who live in Greater Bay Area. And then the one I circled in the red color is specific for the innovation technology. In particular, for example, on the left-hand side, which for those drugs that been registered in Hong Kong, then it can be used in the GBA designated institution. So there will be coming more and more facilitation measure available. So if you are counting the synergy, for example, between mainland China and Hong Kong, on the right-hand side, you have different kind of example of how it works. Say, for example, Guangzhou, which is an administrative region in Greater Bay Area. If Guangzhou combining Hong Kong, it can be a sales hub in Asia. If you combine the Shenzhen and Hong Kong, it can become an international innovation technology hub. And then Hong Kong can combine with Zhuhai, Macau, become an entertainment center, or Hong Kong can combine with other cities in the Greater Bay Area to form a powerful logistic and manufacturing hub. So you can see that different city have that unique feature. When they combine to Hong Kong, it form a different kind of function to those companies. As an example, so as I mentioned before, innovation, for example, the company that I met before, for example, they are having an innovation in Hong Kong, and then the manufacturing base in China, and then export to serving the China company, and also to overseas. And also we have another facility policy called SIPA, which one of the company doing the medical robot is leveraging the SIPA so that because of the quota available, so that they can do the research in Hong Kong and then manufacture in China, and then this product can be sold in China. And then there's other international competitiveness. For example, one of the medical drug company, they are doing the innovation in Hong Kong, and then they will manufacture the drugs in GBA, and then they use the Macau, because Macau have closer relationship with the EU, so that the drugs that they develop, they plan to launch in the Europe area, and so on as well. So to sum up, for the GBA, Hong Kong as a platform for company from GBA to go global, as well as for global company like in Korean company through Hong Kong to enter GBA by leveraging the four key pillars: government policy, incentive available by the R&D funding, and then the facilitation measure I mentioned earlier, the talent and facility available in Hong Kong for doing the R&D research with the people, with the talent here, and then also what we call key opinion leader available. Access to capital, the global leading IPO platform, free flow of capital, and also the startup, the very vibrant kind of startup VCP fund available in Hong Kong. The kind of business environment, simple low tax, logistic hub, and then the rule of law, common law as well. So, and then for Invest Hong Kong, we are ready to help any company who want to come to Hong Kong. So throughout the whole customer journey, including from the planning stage, you need the information, we will provide the information necessary. And then when you start up your company in Hong Kong, applying for the visa, bank account, we can also help you to support that. And one of the very important, when you launch your business, you want to, we are able to provide you more business introduction to the ecosystem or to the network that you want to reach out. We are able to complete that. And once you sell in Hong Kong, you want to do the expansion, we are welcome to do any promotion, business networking for the company. So at the end, this is my contact. So I'm very pleased to be here to introduce about Hong Kong Smart City as well as GBA opportunity. You can feel free to reach out to me or my friend in Seoul, so that we are happy to support you. I pass it back to the host. Thank you.
Thank you for your sharing, Andy. 네, 화면에 나왔던 연락처 말고도 지금 현재 채팅창을
Aside from the information that was shown on the presentation slide, we are also accepting questions in the chat window. So please ask any questions that you might have on the chat window so we can entertain them later in the Q&A session. So that was a presentation on the Blueprint 2.0 for Hong Kong Smart City. And next,
모시고 스마트 시티 관련 기술 개발.
We will invite Dr. Tracy Liu to hear more about the smart city.
Tracy Liu, R&D Director of Electronics, to share the development of 3 smart city related technologies. Hi, Tracy, we are ready for you.
Okay, hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, so can everyone hear me? Yeah. Many thanks for the many thanks to the moderator for the nice introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Tracy Liu. Today it's my great pleasure to be here to introduce some of our newly developed IoT and smart city related technologies. So before talking about the technical details, I'd like to spend a few minutes to introduce NAMI. NAMI stands for Nano and Advanced Materials Institute and was established in 2006. We are designated by the Innovation and Technology Commission, ITC, of Hong Kong government as an R&D center for the nanotechnology and advanced materials. And we are working with local and Greater Bay Area companies to undertake market-driven research for technology upgrading of industry and commercialization. So by new material research and new manufacturing process development, NAMI has been working with our industrial partners to commercialize a lot of new materials and new products with great performance. NAMI has more than 200 research staff, including over 100 PhD researchers working in 5 market sectors. Here list all the 5 market sectors, including healthcare, environmental, electronics, construction, and energy. Today, I will represent our electronics sector to introduce some of our commercialized and award-winning technologies. So in NAMI electronics sector, we are mainly working in these 5 core technology platforms: printed electronics, thermal management materials, battery technologies, polymer materials such as image-shaped memory polymers, and photochemical materials such as quantum dot and color-changing materials for displays. Today, I will focus more on the first 3. These 3 technologies, since they are closely related to today's IoT world and smart city. Firstly, let's talk about printed electronics. Printed electronics are being used in more and more in our daily life. At NAMI, our R&D project including printed sensors, printed conductive nanometal inks, and super hard protective coatings for flexible and wearable electronics. Here is an example. Working with our local Hong Kong local industry partners, we have successfully developed a printed pressure sensor mapping system for healthcare applications, healthcare monitoring actually, such as podiatry monitoring. Here is the video.
Podiatry analysis is usually done to collect useful information for selecting comfortable footwear and evaluating sports performance. However, traditional analyzing systems, such as optical scanner, are expensive, bulky, and not easy to move around. It can only be installed at fixed location in clinics or retail shops. NAMI has developed a highly flexible, responsive, and portable pressure sensor mat for gait scan by screen-printed pressure sensor array. NAMI's printed pressure sensor array consists of flexible polymer substrates and pressure-sensitive materials with sandwich structure to achieve piezo-resistive characteristic. By using screen printing technology, large number of sensor pixels can be printed simultaneously. 2 substrates with printed electrode and piezo-resistive materials are laminated with each other in 90 degrees to form a high-resolution sensor array. The array can be designed with desired shape and size to fit specific needs. NAMI's printed sensor array is highly flexible for better conformity to foot for instant and accurate scanning. With the newly formulated sensitive component, the pressure sensor shows fast response to a wide pressure range from 2 kilopascals to 880 kilopascals with responsive time of less than 1.6 milliseconds. The sensor can provide instant scanning and real-time monitoring of contour distribution. It also shows repeatable performance after thousands times of pressing. This thin and flexible sensor mat is integrated with Bluetooth module for wireless data transmission to mobile device. The product is portable and easy to set up at any location for data collection. The pressure sensor mat for gait scan can be used to provide podiatry analysis such as arch height, overpronation, underpronation, and high pressure area. It is also useful for monitoring sports performance by observing asymmetry during exercise. The sensor array technology can be further developed to produce shoe insole for pressure contour monitoring. This portable and flexible pressure sensor mat for gait scan contributes greatly to ensure foot health as well as improving athletic performance.
Yeah, let's go back. So this printed sensor technology won CES Innovation Award in 2019 in Las Vegas. And now we are working with our industrial partners to explore more applications such as IoT traffic counting, smart manufacturing, etc. The next technology I'd like to talk about is also a hot topic in today's 5G world, thermal management materials. 5G is believed to be the next revolution that will change our society. The high frequency band and increasing chip power density actually require more effective thermal management since it generates more heat. In the past years, NAMI has been working with our industry partners to develop different types of thermal management materials, which have been successfully commercialized and recognized by multiple international awards, including RD100, Edison Award, etc. Here, I'd like to share with you one of our featured projects, anisotropic, that means aligned carbon fiber thermal pad with super high thermal conductivity. Our industrial partner is a Hong Kong registered company with its manufacturing base in Shenzhen. Here's the video.
While we are speeding into the IoT world with 5G and cloud computing technologies, high-performance thermal management materials are needed for the devices to withstand extensive heat generated by the piles of heavily loaded CPUs. However, current attempts at developing these materials have all failed. Traditional thermal interface materials made from ceramic composites have limited thermal conductivity, which cannot cope with the increasing demand for effective thermal management in electronics. By electroflocking technology, NAMI has successfully integrated highly thermal conductive carbon fibers into silicone to form a highly thermal conductive composite. Carbon fibers are aligned to enable anisotropic heat transfer properties. NAMI's anisotropic thermal pad can achieve thermal conductivity of up to 20 watts per millikelvin under ASTM standard, which is 2.5 times that of conventional thermal pads, ensuring an efficient heat transfer from heat source to heat sink. NAMI's thermal interface material built up by carbon fibers is light in weight and more flexible. The carbon fiber thermal conductive pad can withstand 1 kilovolt per millimeter high voltage to ensure safety during operation. This thermal conductive pad can achieve V1 grade in the standard for safety of flammability of plastic materials for parts in devices and appliances. NAMI's anisotropic thermal conductive pad has wide applications in various thermal management areas, including 5G telecommunication systems, network servers and computers, esports computers, as well as new energy thermal management systems for lithium-ion battery arrays. It lays a cornerstone for the development of 5G communication systems in the era of big data.
Yes, this product has not only won multiple international awards, but also successfully commercialized and adopted by the world-leading 5G companies as a thermal interface material for their base stations. The next core technology I'd like to introduce is NAMI's battery technologies. At NAMI, we are doing battery-related R&D from fundamental material chemistry and electrochemistry to battery structure design and even power management. Recently, we have put more and more effort into the IoT batteries to power today's smart city. Here is an example. Using printing technology, we developed a printed flexible battery for LoRa tracking tag, asset tracking tag. So here is a video to introduce more details of this technology.
Long-range LoRa wireless RF technology is a low-cost solution for connecting battery-operated IoT device to the network infrastructure with extra-long transmission range. The high performance of this technology and its application necessitates a disposable battery that can support high current load and long service life. There are no such battery available in the market to meet the requirement of flexible LoRa device. NAMI's printer battery was engineered with innovations to meet the demands from long-range wireless sensor network. The printer battery is thin, flexible, and support high current output. Compared with other printed battery in the market, this battery achieved high power output through quadruple reduction of internal impedance with advanced materials, including printed current collector, swelling polymer, cross-linked polymer network, and high tackiness electrolyte for faster ion transfer. Lower impedance of the battery enables applications that require high current and reduces the voltage drop during discharge, thus leading to longer service life of LoRa device. The printer battery employs a thin film architecture. Electrodes and electrolyte are directly printed on PET, flexible PCB, or other substrate. Thin and flexible form factor enables easy integration with or direct printing on IoT devices. Battery size, shape, capacity, and voltage output can be tailor-made for specific application needs. The battery is printed with eco-friendly materials and water-based chemistry, implying inherent green manufacturing process and safe disposal. NAMI's printed battery design affords the technology a smooth transfer from laboratory to industry for cost-effective large-scale production. This thin and flexible printed battery, which provides an unprecedented power performance, opens up a wide range of applications including LoRa access tracking tags, active RFID, wearable sensor devices, microcurrent cosmetic patches, and medical patches. The printer battery will empower a widespread use of IoT devices in the future.
Yeah, this technology actually is a Grand Slam winner. Representing Hong Kong, it has won 4 big international awards, including RD100, Edison Award, CES Innovation Award, and the Geneva Invention Award. The first 3 awards are from North America, and the first one is from Europe. What is more, this battery has been integrated into the world's first globally operational asset tracking tag with LoRa protocol. The product was just launched in January of this year, 2021, and the battery is being fabricated by the OEM of our industrial partner located in Texas. Here is the end of my presentation. So in the coming years, leveraging our established knowledge and core technologies, NAMI Electronics will continue to explore the emerging technologies and develop new materials for the smart city and IoT world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy, for your great sharing. 네, 홍콩이 스마트 시티 관련 기술 개발에 아주
Hong
적극적.
Kong is very much active in the development of smart city technologies. Before we move on to the next presentation, I would like to make an announcement. There's a quick Q&A after all the presentations. If you have a question, please leave your question on the chat box, and then we will entertain your questions during the Q&A session. Next, last but not least, from GENS Technologies, Mr. Justin Chan, CEO and co-founder of Co-founder.
For the next session, we're going to invite Mr. Justin Chan, the CEO and co-founder of GENS Technologies, to introduce his GENS's journey via the government funding schemes. Without further ado.
Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure here, and what I'll talk about, it's a very brief introduction of what we But the main thing that we talk about would be how the government funding, different aspect of it, has brought us through our entire R&D journey into application, and how it supported us on all of our employment towards the commercialization of our product. So I will just start my presentation now. Sorry, we're calling this up. So yes, what you see on here, it's a medical imaging device that's portable and very low cost. It's based on something called electrical impedance tomography. So we basically use this to scan users at home where you have lung issues or liver issues or other places. With a simple scan, we can do a in-depth imaging monitoring of this. So the entire technology is developed in-house, and we have all patented this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through our technology in 3 minutes, and then I'm going to talk about 4 fundings that has been immensely useful for us in different aspects from the government side. So starting with the technology, it's very simple. You have a band that you wear around the area that you want to scan. And what we do is we do a cross-sectional imaging of it. So in here, you can see there's a band around the chest. So this is a lung and heart imaging. If we wear a bit lower towards the liver, we'll be looking at liver, stomach, and other places. And also applies to sports injuries. So if you look at limbs, wrist, we can look at that as well. The entire technology is non-radiation, so it's quite safe to use. And with what we have right now, it's essentially less than half a kg. It's very cheap, and people can put it at home as well. So the entire thing for this main aspect of it is to do diagnostic screening and long-term health monitoring. So one use case will be in COVID-19, where we have a lot of need in remote monitoring for patients, for recovered ones, and for people who are in hospitals. So what we have now, it's something that we can give to them at a very low cost and very portable with a cloud connectivity as well to do remote monitoring. If people have problems at home, we can know quite early, and then they can do a bit of self-help as well, because there is not enough modalities that could help recover patients and other things in the world. But obviously, it expands more than COVID. We can look at liver imaging, like fatty liver, fibrosis, and other things, and other organs as well. So on the bottom side, right bottom side, you can see the device that we have, and then it connects to an app that would do tracking at home as a smart home device. This is a band, so we're manufacturing this in a GBA area as well, and we're given quite a bit of support through our sort of development journey. And what I'll talk about next is one of the first supporters that we've had at the start of our journey. So that would be Cyberport. So it's an equivalent of Science Park. So two major R&D sort of enablers in Hong Kong that are quasi-government funded, and then they do provide quite a lot of grants for us, either as a startup. It could be early stage, it could be in a mid stage where you're already revenue generating or profit generating. Depending on the scale of your startup, you could go into different funding programs. Most of them are 2 years, and then they give it to you in a grant basis. What you see here is progression of it. So they have a very similar structure in Science Park as well, where you start with a 100K grant, and then after you develop a prototype, when you're sort of launching into the market, you'll be able to join the incubation program. And from there onwards, both sides, Cyberport and Science Park, have accelerated support, and they do run an investment fund as well for companies that are doing particularly well in sort of pre-series A or later stages. So that has been one of our biggest supporters. We've been with them for 2.5 years, and we're still working with them very closely for business networking, for other supports, and they have been immensely useful on top of the funding as well. So it's a very good lending partner if you are considering Hong Kong. The other thing is that we do have quite a lot of R&D element in this. One of the main things that made Hong Kong quite attractive for us, because I was recently back from the UK before I started this, is talent availability of it. So what we had was we utilized a government funding called the Research Talent Hub, which I'll get to in a minute. And we have hired at least 6 PhDs so far, and with quite a lot of R&D engineers. And those are across a multidiscipline from background from electronics to biomedical engineering with quite a lot of machine learning engine as well. And that has supported our early stage of R&D journey. So specifically about this program, we have a combined model where you look at bachelor degree graduates, masters, and postdoctoral graduates. And it's extremely attractive because it's a 36 months program where essentially they give you 4 headcounts for 36 months. And essentially a grant as well. If you want to top up with a higher salary, you can feel free to do so as well. But the entire journey is quite straightforward. If you have a research project from a company based in Hong Kong, you're already eligible to apply for it. Of course, you have different tracks that would help you do it. And having these 4 headcounts would be quite helpful. And in Hong Kong, given our international basis, we do have quite a lot of international talents. So going back to that slide, previous, we have people from Africa, we have people from Europe, from US as well. So it's really, really interesting talent with a multicultural background. We've so far been utilizing quite a lot of those. So one of those is via Cyberport. We have 4 headcounts from this, and we have more headcounts from other partnership projects that we have with university as well. So I'll go back to a bit about how we're applying this technology. So obviously, after our R&D structure, we do need to commercialize this. And the support doesn't stop in that part from the government. One of the things that we've done, it's something called a public sector trial scheme, which I'll go through in a minute. But essentially what we do here is, you can see on the left-hand side, we have someone wearing a belt. We didn't use a real person, but all of those. We have the photos, but essentially you can put at home and then we can monitor them, lungs, liver in real time. And with that could save quite a lot of personnel cost from a medical perspective. And we can monitor people quite effectively as well. That in turn could save quite a lot of medical cost. And because we can do early diagnostic and closer monitoring as well. This can also be applied in the hospital settings. So both of those are quite interesting in terms of R&D application elements of this. So going back to the public sector trial scheme that I talked about, they do have a scheme that's up to 1 million Hong Kong dollars that could help you integrate your solutions into a Hong Kong government structure or NGOs, charities in Hong Kong. So they do give you quite a lot of options. And with that, they give you a free platform to test the market in a Greater Bay Area, in Hong Kong, in an international city. And that could build a very, very good use case for you when you're expanding. So that use of fund is quite flexible as well. It's an entirely available grant. So it's 100% from the government. And then it's a decent size as well, that you can do quite a lot of it. It supports manpower, it supports equipment, support quite a lot of stuff. So with that, we're running a special COVID-19 core trial. So it's this quite a special response to the government for different schemes that we can put into. And that one, we were tracking some remotely recovered patients through those systems. So I'll go back to more of this. So obviously, other than lungs, we do have quite a lot of potential that we can work on the different R&D areas. So these are 4 main organs or systems that we're looking at. We're looking at more in terms of brains, in terms of pancreas, other places. But the point is that even with the trial scheme, they do support ongoing research quite well. Like the ones Tracy mentioned with different partnerships with very, very big companies. They do support sort of medium, smaller sized companies in terms of R&D research as well. So one of those research we've been doing, it's via a partnership research program. And we're partnering with University of Hong Kong professor, where we're essentially working on an EIT, so our imaging technique with MRI images, where we feature against both of those, and we use something called a super resolution. So we're transforming a lower resolution image of our device, because it's so portable and cheap, into a high resolution. And for that, we were running several clinical trials on this, and that has been supported by government in quite a lot of ways. So briefly of this program, they do have 2 trenches. One's called ITSP and one's called PRP. So PRP is a 1-to-1 matching system, whereas ITSP has a 1-to-9 matching system. So the government granting matching fund a lot more in terms of proportion in ITSB. Normally, if you look at the public records online, it's around $500,000 to several million Hong Kong dollars precise, where the government is matching exactly what the industry will be matching. And the use is quite similar as well in terms of you can spend money on R&D, on manpower, and then they do have a lot more flexibility in prototyping and other things as well, and the clinical research side of things. So it's a very, very good avenue for this. And on top of that, this also makes you eligible for more headcounts on the RTH program that I just mentioned. So that's a very, very brief overview of what we have in here in terms of our research. So I will end with a slide that I think you could even follow Andy's version. I think that one is much more comprehensive in that way, but we do have quite a few things that we want to talk about in here as well. So I've selected a short number of those from Andy's slide that it's more relevant to us specifically, and perhaps to smaller companies. So on top of those, you can see the two R&D enablers in Hong Kong as Hyperpoint Science Park. So you can see 3 programs. So they're the equivalents of each other, where you start with a small fund, and then they have an incubation program, and then they do have a larger program in acceleration or investment as well. So on the bottom left side, you have the Productivity Council as well. So they are sort of an executor of certain grants as well. So one of those has been quite helpful to us would be a patent application grant, where they are helping us with $250,000 for patent applications that they're sponsoring 90% of it. So it covers multiple regions that covers that's within your budget, and it's been immensely helpful for us as well. There's also upgrading funds like the BUT fund you can see below, where we're looking at branding, we're looking at upgrading, we're looking at sales. So when you're at a later stage, when you're in the manufacturing circle, when you're looking at more marketing, when you're looking at deploying a product in the GBA area, that would be a very good avenue for you to look at as well. And obviously, on the middle side of things, there are quite a few other departments offering different grants that you can keep track to. We have design-based grants with the Design Incubation Center. Food and Health Bureau, it's helping with the very good biotech sector in Hong Kong with HMRC funds and other things as well. It's closer to clinical trials. We also have environmental funds, where we look at a very, very broad environmental sector in different point of view of this. And the right-hand side, those are the fundings that I've gone through. You have a research talent hub and quite a bit of programs that could help you upgrade. You could work with university as well, and other matching grants that you could look into. So essentially, there is quite a lot of resources that's available to you. It's on non-exhaustive list. You should look at any slide for more comprehensive overview. But essentially, that's a very brief journey of how the government has helped us along the journey from the very, very basic R&D to the trial to ongoing research and commercialization of this. So I'll end my presentation a bit early so that we can have more time on Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing your experience. 네, 지금까지 연사분들 발표를 다 들어보았는데요. 지금부터 Q&A 세션을 진행하도록
Thank you. We
하겠습니다.
have heard the presentation, so we should move on to the question and answer session. And we will be welcoming questions on the chat window during the Q&A session as well. So we'd like to answer the questions that have already come up onto the window. So first question is there anything particular that Korean companies should consider when trying to advance into the Hong Kong? And on behalf of KOTRA, I would like to make one remark. So when you're considering advancing into a different market, if you have your own brand, then the thing that you have to consider first is considerations about IP. So Hong Kong is a world-renowned trading and finance hub. So it's one of the markets where the new technology and new products are showcased first. So the designs or the technology might be counterfeited easily. So you have to ask for protection of the authorities. And if your rights are infringed later on, you might not be able to get compensation for that. So when you're trying to advance into the market in Hong Kong, then you should probably file for IP or patents or design in Hong Kong authorities. So please make inquiries to KOTRA as well.
If there's anything that we need to, or Korean companies need to focus on, or anything they need to care when they specifically care when they're entering Hong Kong market, Hong Kong business, when they're setting up the Hong Kong business. And would you like to give us some insight? I was talking about the importance of registering trademarks in Hong Kong, basically, or not only trademark, but basically all the IP assets, how important registering those assets are. So other than that, could you give us some insight, please?
Maybe I can try to attack the question.
Oh,
so
sure.
you are talking about what is the importance of IP registration?
No. That was just my answer, my part of the answer.
Okay.
So if there's anything Korean companies specifically need to focus on when they're entering, they are setting up their business in Hong Kong.
So what are the importance of setting up? What they need to know? What are the key concerns that they need to know? Okay.
Yes.
So I think let's start with the process of setting up a company in Hong Kong first, right? So you have to think about what is the format of your company. So there are different forms, right? So it can be sole proprietor, or it can be a partnership company, or in most cases, right, it will be a limited company by shares, right? So first of all, you define the limited company, and then you set up the so that's the format of the company. So in this limited company, then you need the one director. It can be non-Hong Kong residents. It can be overseas company, so it can be Korean. But you need to find a company set. But that must be a local person. But you can appoint a company in Hong Kong to act on behalf as a company secretary. So once a company is formed, and then you need to look for what are the opportunity, the regulation that you need to take into consideration. But this depends on which industry you are working on, right? So for example, if it is the medical device, so you need to look at the regulation whether your device need to is any regulation require you to get the approval of the device. So this is the regulatory perspective. And then the structure of the company. In addition to just normal the shareholding, but you also need to look at, because maybe eventually you want to move into Greater Bay Area. So what is the tax structure? So what is the holding, and then how can we minimize the tax between two different places? You avoid double taxation. And then that is the area that you need to look. So look at the regulation, look at the structure of a company, and also what are the business opportunity. So in that case, right, definitely Invest Hong Kong would be a good partner that can work with you to introduce the different the ecosystem partner that you need to work together in order you have a better understanding how can you promote your product. If in case you are doing the R&D function, then we can also recommend you to the science park, NAMI, do a project with NAMI, and then Cyberport, etc. So, and then is there any funding available that you can apply for? So that can definitely will help you to promote to the product. And by the time your product is ready to launch to the market, then we can recommend what kind of platform that you can commercialize your product as well. So feel free to add anything if you have any.
No, I think that's perfectly.
Thank you.
굉장히 자세하게 회사 설립 과정을 포함해서 설명을 해주셨는데.
So that was a very detailed description of how to advance into the Hong Kong market, including establishing the company. Next, I would like to deliver the next question.
For incubation by InvestHK, what would be needed?
Applying for HKSDP incubation program or other investment program? Could you share some? Or actually, I think this question can also go to Justin.
Sure. I could share a bit first, and then Andy could help with any insights. it depends on the stage of it. So like I said, there are two stages that you'll be mainly looking at. There are follow-up stages as well, but mainly the entry point would be the two initial stages. So if you are in an earlier stage where you want to test an idea, you could just go to the website, look at the STEP program, STEP, or you can look at something called the CCMF in Cyberport. So that's very early, but I'm guessing from today's participant will be slightly later stage where you already have a product or a prototype at least. And then that will encourage you to apply to the incubation program. So in Cyberport, that's one. In Science Park, they're free. So you have InQ App, you have InQ Tech, and you have InQ Bio. So most of the companies, I'd say, would fall into the first two categories. InQ Bio, to my knowledge, takes in a much lower number every year. And then you're really looking at medical devices or pharmaceuticals, those sort of hardcore technologies in those. So you can have a straight choice between InQ App and InQ Tech, and they do have quite a lot of account managers they can talk to as well. But all of those information are available online. They open the application year round, so you can apply anytime. It's a simple form you fill in, you put in a business plan, and then it's a simple two stages interview and you're in. After that, they will have a 2 or 3 years program depending on which one you choose, and then you're eligible for all of the benefits in the financial side of it and the network side of it, and other additional benefits of this as well.
Thank you, Justin. Andy, do you have anything to add?
I think it's very comprehensive. So in the case of Science Park, right? So as Justin mentioned, it will be 3 programs, right? So the InQ Bio program. So there will be there's a 2 years program for InQ Apps, 3 years program for InQ Tech, and 4 years program for InQ Bio. And then once you qualify to join the program, then you are entitled to move in as to use the common space in this area in the Science Park. And then you can, in certain area, you can use the shared facilities. In particular, for example, in the testing equipment, it will be very expensive. You want to buy it by yourself. But once you join as an incubator, you can share to use the common facility, which is very important to help your development. And also they currently give different kind of training available or similar to help you to understand how the commercialization works in Hong Kong. And also they do have a regular seminar to talk about the GBA. So the kind of the training available in Science Park, and also the can be the monetary funding support, can be non-monetary, which is more consultant-based kind of support, which will be helpful for those startup company who can have a more familiar with the environment in Hong Kong through the Science Park or Cyberport.
Thank you. 단순히 어떤 금전적인 지원뿐만 아니라
So
이제
it's
트레이닝
not only financial, but training and other supports. Next question.
지사 설립 등의 법률 회계 쪽 컨설팅은
So the
도움을
next question is, can we also get legal and accounting and other professional services consulting when we're trying to set up a branch office?
of legal or accounting consulting in relation with legal or accounting consulting? Will there be any service that you are providing?
I think what we can do in terms of the professional service, right? So Invest Hong Kong will not be able to provide a professional service because it's touch on to the tax, can touch on the legal, but we do have a database in our system who can recommend what are the company that you can reach out to get the professional advice.
직접적으로 도움을 주실 수도 있지만 그 무엇보다도 우선
Invest
데이터베이스
Hong Kong will be able to provide help, and also we will be able to provide a list of companies that you can work with through our database.
So the question was especially in regards of company setup. So in regards of company setup, will there be any help they can seek for in regards of legal or accounting consulting?
Oh, okay. For the company setup in Hong Kong, right? So it's not difficult. It's quite simple, but it's just a matter of timing. So you can, for the company who want to set up in Hong Kong, they can do it by themselves. You can fill in the form online, or you can fill in the hard copy form and then send it to the registration office in Hong Kong government. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of company setup. So the most common one will be the limited company by shares. which is require one director and one company secretary, right? The fee is not expensive. One-off fee around 1,700 Hong Kong dollar for the registration fee. And also the registration per year is about 250, but it's been waived by the government because of the pandemic issue. So, but of course, if you don't want to do it, you can hire a accounting firm to help you to do the registration process.
So for that one, you said you mentioned earlier that you have the database to recommend in terms of accounting firms, so you can recommend those firms, right?
Yes, definitely.
So that will be the service you can provide. Right?
Yeah.
Other than that, will there be any service that you can provide in regards of like accounting? I mean, yeah, obviously that will be pretty much complicated, like legal part and also accounting part. Will there be any other service that we can see?
I think in general, for example, as I maybe highlight, in different industry, you have different regulation you need to aware of.
Right.
So if in case the company who want to maybe focus on some of trading, right? So they can reach out to us and then we can give some the kind of regulation that they have to be aware of. So which government department they need to reach out, which website, which government information they need to look after first, take care of this before, if in case that they want to go deeper in particular certain area, and then we can recommend them to, we'll reach out to the professional firm to look for certain particular area that may be only targeting their own requirement. But in general, for those regulations that we can cover that by Invest Hong Kong.
I see. So Invest Hong Kong can be like a one-stop service for them when they're setting up. So like you can either give them the initial consultation by yourself, or if there's any need, necessity to seek for any like deeper consultation, then you can introduce some of the consulting firms you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay. 네. 인베스트 홍콩에서 직접 홍콩 투자청에서 직접적으로 제안해
Well, Invest Hong Kong might provide consulting services itself, but if the company needs to go into more in-depth details, then they will be able to refer them to professional services firms in Hong Kong. And the next question is?
Experience in applying for different government funding schemes, is it very difficult?
So I'd say it's relatively straightforward. Of course, you have to answer quite a few different aspects of it as for any grant. But when you compare this to international sort of aid agency grants or other places, it's relatively really straightforward. So I'll give you a rough overview of how would be a timeline like for all of our funding applications. So internally, our company has a sort of a policy of all of the applications should be done by within 10 days after we start drafting it. So we normally just assign 1 or 2 staff on it. And depending on how large the funding is and what sort of funding it is, it's normally an entirely achievable target. So in that sense, it's quite straightforward enough. And obviously, there will be 1 or 2 times that you have to follow up with the application where they have a bit of follow-up questions. But normally, it's something that you can answer within one day of preparation. And the reimbursement process, which sometimes would take a bit of time, but at the same time, it's straightforward as well, where you prepare your documents, you keep your finances transparent, and you would have a very, very good process of getting those back quite easily as well.
Can you give us some idea, like how long does it normally take to receive the funding from the time of the application? Briefly, maybe like 3 months, 6 months, or?
Sure. So that depends on the funding itself as well. So it could be ranging from 1 or 2 months to if it's a very, very difficult period where we have pandemic on our things as well, it could be more than half a year. But generally, it depends on the funding itself. And quite a lot of those are reimbursement based. So it also depends on your program duration as well. But overall, once you get to that reporting stage, it should be within 1 or 2 months.
I see. Thank you. 네, 다음 질문은요. 네, 한국의 스마트시티 기업이 이번 스마트시티
Next question is, So if what are the ways that a Korean smart city technology company can participate in this Smart City Blueprint 2.0?
Opportunities arising from it. Andy, could you answer this question, please?
So your question is about how can Korean want to
Korean company can basically participate in these opportunities arising from the smart city blueprint.
Oh, okay. So I think for the Smart City Blueprint 2.0, it covers 6 major pillars, right? So there's a lot of initiative has been laid out in the Smart City Blueprint 2.0. In particular, for example, the transportation and then the environmental green environment, so like renewable energy, and then the telehealth systems, right? So those are the initiative has been announced by the government. So to address or to capture this opportunity, so you may want to look at what are from the government perspective, what are the key initiatives they are driving, and then to see whether you have the solution to address those market. And then say, for example, in the green environment, and then the government set up another fund called Green Tech Fund. So you can look at whether this Green Tech Fund is any solution that you can address those initiatives, and then you can also apply for the Green Tech Fund to support your further development in this area. And then maybe also this is for Hong Kong, but also you can leverage the Hong Kong and then look a much bigger scale, which is the GBA area. And then for Hong Kong, you can look at the opportunity in the GBA area. Well, maybe I want to see whether Dr. Tracy Lee, if in case she has any comment, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, actually, NAMI has been working with industry partners, whether from local Hong Kong local companies or overseas companies. Actually, they have registered a company in Hong Kong. So we are working with these companies to develop new R&D project and apply government funding. Actually, we are working with these companies under different funding schemes. So from platform project to collaborative project. Yeah, and maybe if the company is very urgent, they have an urgent timeline, we have a contract research scheme. But the government offers different benefit to the companies, such as cash rebate and tax deduction. Yeah, we can discuss later. If you are interested, feel free to contact us.
Yeah. I think what Dr. Tracy Lee is talking about is that because the NAMI is a research institution, so if the company who want to develop in particular project, particular application, and then they can appoint NAMI as the research agents to help them to conduct the research and do the applied research in this area, and then to roll out once the product is been ready, and then can roll out to the market.
Yeah, and some audience just asked if we can, if Hong Kong can provide any service. Actually, besides the legal and accounting service, I think R&D service. I think that is what we can work together. So normally from idea incubation to the project start, it takes around 6 months, and NAMI will take care of everything about including the funding scheme, funding application, the project implementation, and also support the commercialization.
Talking of which, I received another question. Is NAMI working on any projects related to the GBA development?
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. Actually, we have a lot of projects working with local companies, but the manufacturing base is in Greater Bay Area. Yeah, and also we are developing. You know, the manufacturing. Actually, the manufacturing in Hong Kong is not so many, but most of the manufacturing base is in Shenzhen or Greater Bay Area. So, for example, the 5G thermal management material I just mentioned. So that is a company who is making thermal management materials mainly for 5G base station. Yeah, so actually the manufacturing is in the Greater Bay Area, but the R&D and our IP protection is in Hong Kong.
Thank you. Actually, talking about which, this can be another kind of related question. Where can the companies find the government smart city infrastructure tendering information?
Maybe I try to answer this way. So usually we will have a government gazette, which will be announced what are the major projects that have been launched by the government. So do feel free to monitor the government gazette to see any major infrastructure project has been rolled out. And also there's a website, which is ITC website. So people please go to the website to check on what the project is being rolled out by the government.
So that they can
visit to the website, ITC website.
So that they can provide the solution to each of the initiatives.
Yes, to look at what are the initiatives announced by the government.
See, thank you. So the next question is, what are the improvements of the blueprint 2.0? It is going back to the basics. So what are the improvements of the blueprint 2.0 over 1.0? So in what ways Hong Kong got smarter over these years since the implementation of blueprint 1.0? Actually, it will be more helpful if you could give us some idea about the blueprint 1.0 as well, because maybe some of the audience don't really know about the what's the difference between 1.0. So
yeah, again, let me try to answer first. Please feel free to help me. so I think the blueprint 1.0, which is the first blueprint published by the government in 2017. Right. So at that time, it's already defined 6 major kind of what we call pillar to work on. So one is smart mobility, which talk about the transportation. The other is smart living. How can we live smarter, which enable the Internet of Things, 5G, to make the quality of living much better. So another smart environment, which is talking about the carbon net zero things, smart environment. Smart government is important because how can government to open the data to drive innovation? That is or the cloud or the government, how can they facilitate more efficient government service to the public? So there's a 4 pillar. And then smart people is how can we use the better education to what we call STEM education to make people focus more on the engineering, science, etc. And then the last is smart economy. So which cover what we call pop tech, law tech, fintech, etc. So it's everything to use the technology to make stimulate the economy. So that as the 6 major pillar has been laid out in Smart City Blueprint 1.0. And then last year we launched the Smart City 2.0, which is a continuation of the Smart City Blueprint 1.0. And then the emphasis will be covering more on the medical part, which is because of the COVID. So there are more initiatives focusing on the COVID in this area, focusing more on the robot. How can we use the robot to improve the lifestyle of Hong Kong? And then the robot is not just focusing on one pillar. It can be applied to different pillars for using the robot. And also the green energy, focusing on the green environmental. Mobility, because of the EV is getting more popular right now. So, and then now we have the AV, autonomous vehicle. So it's a continuation. Why there's a continuation? Because the whole society technology has been moving into more advanced level. So industrialization, for example. So because of the technology evolution, technology change, so that's why we have a Smart City 2.0. And also there's a different needs, say for example, the COVID or some other areas to drive the come up of the Smart City Blueprint 2.0.
코로나 시대에
Yeah. Very good.
코로나 이후 시대에 굉장히
So post COVID-19, the medical companies should look for opportunities to advance into Hong Kong.
Any difficulties in commercializing your products in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I'd be lying if anyone says you have any problems in commercialization. But certainly, I think Hong Kong is a very, very good place to attempt for this. On several fronts, that I think it could be very helpful. So from an early stage of commercialization, you do need a product first. So that manufacturing base in GBA enables us a lot as well. So we can do a lot of faster prototyping, and then we're currently connected to at least 10 factories for different parts of what we do. So that entire process of securing the supply chain is a very, very important bedrock of the first of commercialization. And then the other part, obviously, other than the government funding that we talked about, would be the actual partners that would help you commercialize. So what we do is a very B2B model where we work with multinational companies, local companies, or even the government sector of things. So right now, for example, we have been talking to a Japanese company at a very, very good stage of commercializing what we're doing. We're also talking to local health companies, and all of those are connected via conferences in Hong Kong, connected via the Cyberport network, and via webinars like this. So from that perspective, we do have quite a good platform for us to try out quite a lot of different things. And because what we're doing is Hong Kong-based, Hong Kong tested, there's also a high confidence in terms of the data quality and the trustworthiness of what we can do as well. So that has also been a springboard, not just to GBA, but different global parts of the world as well. So all in all, of course, commercialization is always a challenge that we'd always welcome. But at the same time, I do think Hong Kong is in a unique position to help us achieve good results as well.
네, 너무 좋은 말씀을 많이 듣다 보니 어느덧
Thank you, all panelists. It's now time to end today's program. One last question. We will entertain just one last question.
But Dan, what are the benefits of having a base in Hong Kong especially for a Greater Bay Area initiative as compared to setting up directly in other mainland Chinese cities, do you think?
Maybe to tackle the question first, right? So we do see a lot of companies who may not go straight to GBA first, but they will set up an office in Hong Kong first. And then the role for the Hong Kong office can be multiple dimensions. One is about the tax structure mentioned earlier. So once you have a holding company in Hong Kong, because given Hong Kong is free flow of information, free flow of capital, there's no control of capital flow. So using Hong Kong as the hub for sourcing, using Hong Kong as a hub for managing your flow of money, trading is definitely a good advantage. And because of the law system in Hong Kong, we inherit from the rule of law, our common law system. So when you are dealing with the different contract with different company, it will be more easier to use the same basic what we call language to the system. And in Hong Kong is an international financial center, so you can find different kind of professional people around Hong Kong, including the accountant, including the lawyer in Hong Kong. And this morning I have another seminar with one of the innovative company which is using the AI for drug discovery. And then the reason that why he is in Hong Kong because of the IP protection. So that's important because the market is definitely in China, but they have the IP protection in Hong Kong, and also they can eventually list it in Hong Kong. So because of the institutional investor or banking system is in Hong Kong, so they can easily to reach out those professional service in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Just very, very shortly add to this. I think from a generic perspective, I can't add more, but to us, it's really the familiarity of it. Because we share the common law system, we share the language, it's much easier to hire people who speak English or even Korean in Hong Kong. And then having this space would help communication a lot better. And then having a sort of an interim, sort of a regional liaison office or management office here will be immensely helpful to bridge the cultural gap and the traditional gap as well. Because sometimes going to GBA, there's still a learning gap that people will tell in Hong Kong would be helpful to help you bridge that as well.
Thank you. Dr. Lear, would you like to add some words?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andy and Justin. Yeah, and also actually, if we come to Hong Kong first, we can leverage the advantage of both Hong Kong and GBA.
Thank you all for your wonderful insights. Yeah, I'm mesmerized already. So, yeah, 네, 지금
Now, I feel it's regretful to say that it's time to end because we've been hearing all very valuable insights. And I hope that many companies will take part in business opportunities in Hong Kong. I'd like to thank you, all the speakers, Mr. Andy Wong, Dr. Tracy Liu, and Mr. Justin Chuan for your presentations. Thank you so much.
I was, as you could see, super excited on Hong Kong Smart Cities project. Andy, Tracy, and Justin, stay safe and well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you.